everyone, it's Jack and Adam from Cultaholic.com with a pre-Elimination Chamber news update. Are you excited for the pay-per-view?
I cannot wait. I think Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin is going to be a 5-star classic. Are you excited, Jack?
I'm very excited as well. No, I am excited because I always love pay-per-views. Right. I think it'll be good and a crucial road bump on the road to WrestleMania. Oh yeah.
Let's take a look at the news.
First of all, the main event of tonight's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is said to have been confirmed. In other news, there was an update to the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair feud at a live event in Alexandria, Louisiana. And finally, a former UFC heavyweight champion has spoken on the chances of him transitioning over to WWE in the near future. So, first and foremost, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com, he's back at it again. He's always got the scoop, Sean. He says that the main event of tonight's show has been confirmed. Predictably, it's one of the Elimination Chamber matches.
Go on.
It's the Women's Tag Team Elimination Chamber match. I don't know if that's particularly shocking, given that it's the first time.
Right, I mean, the WWE Championship hasn't main evented a dual brand pay-per-view since the brand split.
Wow, is that true?
Yeah.
That's crazy, because it's on SmackDown, I'm guessing, and also just...
Well, poor AJ.
Yes.
And everyone involved. Poor Joe, poor Brian.
Yeah, Nakamura.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not too controversial a decision if it is true, given the fact that it's the first time we're going to see the women's tag team titles fought for. So
I agree, in a way, but I mean, don't get me wrong. The women's tag team titles are very, very important, but they should never be positioned as more important than the WWE Championship, in my opinion. I know this is a monumental night, but I would still prefer to see the WWE Championship match, the match which honestly is probably going to be the better match as well.
Given the experience of the people involved, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I'd just prefer to see that go on last. I mean, this to me, I think as far as predictions go, works in my favour because I've got Sasha and Bayley, and I think if it's going on last, then they're going to finish with a big face win, not the new Daniel Bryan winning the WWE Championship or retaining the WWE Championship.
Kofi Kingston.
Do you honestly have Kofi?
It's coming home. No, I don't have Kofi.
Coming home, all the way to Ghana, where Jack is from.
Ghana, West Africa. Or Boston. He sometimes is billed from being around New England as well. Yeah. Also not from there. It is noted as well that the card is always subject to change, so this isn't exactly locked in. We know that sometimes WWE like to change things just before the event itself.
Yes.
Often, sometimes even during the event. So it's not a lock, but given this news report, it does sort of seem likely. I'm not one of those people who thinks, by the way, that the WWE Championship should always be on last at every show. I think certain circumstances do dictate that it doesn't necessarily have to. But if what you've said there is true, that hasn't main evented since the brand split.
It's a shame, and obviously the Universal title hasn't been on the line on every pay-per-view because, hey, Brock.
Yes.
There have been plenty of opportunities, and it just seems to sit sort of midway to late into the card every time.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. It could even open the main card. Obviously, we've got the Cruiserweight that's being confirmed as being on in the pre-show.
Yes.
That's the only pre-show match this time. We've got Braun and Baron, as I say.
They do like to keep the chambers quite far apart as well, don't they? Oftentimes they would have, back like sort of 10 years ago, they'd have one Elimination Chamber open the show and one close it as well. So yeah.
We might see that tonight, which is weird. We'll see.
In other news, during a SmackDown Live event in Alexandria, Louisiana on Saturday night, Becky Lynch suddenly leaped over the barricade. Of course, she's been suspended by the big dog himself, Vince McMahon, the big boss man, by Vince McMahon. She attacked Charlotte Flair and re-injured her knee. She targeted it with a chair, she speared the knee, she was hanging it over the rope.
Yeah, Finlay came down to try to break things up. Yes. She speared and they brawled into the crowd again, leaving Becky. She walked backstage and gave an interview for WWE.com. This is weird, right? Because it happened on the same night as the Corey Graves drama, which we're all familiar with, has gone down. And to me, it doesn't make that much sense because the storyline now is that Becky's been suspended. Her suspension runs out 5 days after WrestleMania. So why is the knee injury necessary? To me, that is to take some of the attention away from the Corey Graves situation.
I can see that as a possibility, definitely. Also, another thing, maybe, is that it could be to just give this whole storyline more sense of realism because it took place at a house show rather than, on TV. They've done it before with like certain NXT feuds where things have happened away from the TV cameras. I think there was a title change once as well. I think Balor might have won it at a house show, or Samoa Joe. I think it was Joe from Balor. So it could be that as well. But yes, I agree with you. I don't think it adds particularly anything to the story that we don't already know.
No, to me the drama was she going to be able to be removed from her suspension by any means necessary, not whether she was going to be cleared to wrestle.
Yeah.
Now you've got this thing where if she is if the suspension is removed, we've now got but also is she cleared to wrestle? That just sort of complicates this storyline, which some people are already saying is too complicated.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. I think maybe you're right, maybe it is to take some of the attention away from the whole messy Corey Graves situation. But in doing so, I'm wondering if they are maybe sacrificing a little bit of this storyline simplicity as well. Also, I think from the video that we've seen of the attack and from the statement the WWE have put out that I've just read from there, it's almost certainly a work. It's not a real
Oh,
injury.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's not good. There's no need to worry. Becky is still probably going to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and win.
And win. She's gonna do it. She's gonna bloody do it.
Yeah. Do you think this increases the chances of Becky being seen tonight at Elimination Chamber?
I think it might actually decrease the chances of it. I think that, that was a trick question there.
It was. I got you there.
It's like English at school. Yeah, I think it decreases it because she's been in the news now just before the event. I don't think crowds will be as sort of tempted in their minds by the fact of Becky, the idea of Becky coming out and think, well, she's injured her knee, she's probably not going to show up at the event.
Which, personally, I much prefer. You made a pitch in our videos, 9 pitches, earlier this week, that you want to see Becky come in and take over the show in some way, hold it hostage.
Yes.
But I didn't think it was the right time for it, because I think it is too soon. But the house show thing does add an element of realism to this. Which we wouldn't have got perhaps as much with the pay-per-view. Yeah,
that's fair enough. So yeah, I don't think we'll particularly see her tonight, and I could be made to look very silly in just a few short hours' time. And finally, former UFC heavyweight champion, former 2-time UFC heavyweight champion, Cain Velasquez, he's done a couple of interviews actually, one with The Mac Life and one with MMA Fighting, in which he's talked about the possibility of him going to WWE at some point. Obviously following in the footsteps of people like Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar.
He's still with UFC currently, correct?
He's he's main eventing the UFC Phoenix, which apparently is the first big UFC show on ESPN as part of this new deal, against Francis Ngannou, I hope I pronounced that right, who is like kind of in the position that Velasquez was about 10 years ago. He's the big sort of hyped guy, I think. I'm going to look a little bit silly if that's not true, but I think he's meant to be a big threat. There's every chance that Velasquez could lose this. He's 36, I checked his age, which wasn't as old as I thought he was. And heavyweights tend to go a little bit longer than lighter classes do because they rely more on power rather than, I guess, endurance and speed, generally speaking. But if he were to go to WWE, well, I'll read out what he said first. In the Mac Life interview, he was asked what the chances were that he ends up with WWE, and he said 70%.
Okay, interesting.
Pretty high.
Yeah.
He, of course, did train last July in the Performance Center. He said that was sort of to see if he could do it, and he felt very confident about that.
Okay.
He could do. He said obviously he'd have to spend more time in the gym on his physique rather than his fighting ability, and that it was a whole different thing. But he likened it in this other interview with MMA Fighting to the sort of camaraderie. He said there's a similar sort of sense of spirit amongst everybody there. That's lovely. You do get that sense from the Performance Center as well when you see the videos on that YouTube channel, the Performance Center.
Yeah,
YouTube
absolutely. It seems like a family.
Yeah, everyone seems to be having a good time. He's also said, yes, so with that too, it would also take time. I'd need to be in the gym more to do that. I've got to be engulfed in it for months and months to be the best that I could be at it. So he understands the limitations. But then he said, I'm not looking to go in and just do it half-assed and do some appearances here and there. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%. That's how I am.
That's encouraging because, I mean, Ronda Rousey said a similar thing when she joined the WWE.
And she did?
And she absolutely did, although now her WWE career may be being cut short.
Yes.
It's still, I guess, up in the air at the moment. It's not something that excites me tremendously. I'm not an MMA viewer. I'm familiar with Cain, obviously. But I don't know, I'm getting a bit tired of people coming in
on the back, having already made a name for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But only when they do wrestle a part-time schedule.
Okay.
He's enough of a draw to do so. To me, this depends. My excitement level, it depends entirely on his schedule.
He would have that sense of legitimacy, not only because he's a UFC fighter, but because when he won his first UFC heavyweight championship, the man he beat was actually Brock Lesnar. He did defeat him for the title, so he would have that sense of real sort of danger about him, or the real ability.
We're going to get Cain Velasquez versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36, aren't we?
I want to see Cain Velasquez versus Cain. That's the dream match in my mind. I think that would be wonderful.
I know who's going to win that one.
The demon, Cain. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, and again, I don't like when people criticise like Shayna Baszler, for example, because I think she's brilliant.
She's great, tremendous heel.
Yes, and she kind of got caught up in the backlash of the whole Brock and Ronda stuff. Everyone's going, oh, all these MMA fighters coming over. But Cain Velasquez is a top-level name like Lesnar and Rousey. I'd say to the mainstream fan, probably a bit less than those, and people like, obviously, Conor McGregor, big mega stars. But in the MMA sort of world, he is a huge top-level star.
Yes. Do you think he's got the charisma to do this?
I've got no idea.
Because it's one thing that Ronda Rousey is slated for is her lack of mic skills. It is taking her time to pick those up.
Yes.
And sometimes her promos on Raw aren't good.
Yeah,
to say the least.
I don't know. I don't know how good he is, because you can't. It's not something you can really tell necessarily. You can only tell if they're a really overt personality like Conor McGregor. He would probably do well. He's a natural. With Cain Velasquez, I don't know. And often when they get interviewed after fights, they've either just been beaten or they've just won. The adrenaline's all wearing off, and they seem a bit of a mess. So it's kind of hard to tell. I don't know, but when I've watched him before, I know this is my very limited knowledge, he does move in quite a dynamic way. He's quite explosive, which I think would lend itself quite well to wrestling.
Absolutely.
But you never know. So that is it for our pre-Elimination Chamber news update. Thank you very much for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber.
Adam Pacitti.
You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and check out our Patreon as well if you want to, patreon.com/Cultaholic. Enjoy Elimination Chamber, and of course, if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe and join us.